In this video I'll be sharing all the stupid mistakes and habits I did in the past, which made me look like I don't even lift, even though I was killing myself in the gym almost daily, and what I implemented into my training and my lifestyle, which made me look like a completely different person within the span of a year. Improper programming. As a beginner, you shouldn't need to lift more than 2 to maximum 4 times a week. The bare minimum is 2 times a week. The perfect number, in my opinion, would be 3 times a week, which I obviously didn't do. I went to the gym 6 times a week. I blasted my soul away. I did too many exercises and my program was overall just bullshit. I did too much as a beginner and that greatly limited my potential for growth. Not the potential, but literal growth. I didn't grow at all. Even after, as I said, lifting for 2 years already, almost 3 years, I still looked like I don't even lift. Of course, my starting point was very low and I was almost anorexic, I think. You'll see in the pictures right now. I was very, very skinny and I thought that more is better. More training days, more exercises per training session would lead to bigger and faster growth, which is not true at all. If you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate, you shouldn't kill yourself in the gym daily. You should train, as I said, 2 to 4 times a week maximum. 3 times a week would be the perfect middle ground. You should mainly focus on the big compounds and just sprinkle in some isolation movements in the end, so you can build your base, build your foundation with the compound movements, get strong. The stronger you get on the compound movements, the more muscle you will build. That's not to say that you should be a purist, that you should become a powerlifter and just do the compounds, but it does not make any sense if you're a beginner to do all the incline presses, to hit all the angles, do all the exercises for triceps or for biceps or whatever. You should start small and build up gradually. It is a very slow and steady process, as everyone says, bodybuilding or just strength training. Bro, I can't pronounce it. Strength training is a gradual and slowest process. You need to be patient, you need to learn to be patient, which I'll talk about later in this video. But stick to the basics, find yourself a proper program. Don't overdo it, train 3 to 4 times a week at maximum. If you haven't built your base already, I will now list some programs or training templates you can use for your training. If you're a beginner, if you're an intermediate or even advanced lifter. Another mistake I see a lot of people doing, or even myself at times, is not even having a proper program, which means that there are these basic exercises or exercises you like doing, and you just go into the gym and do those exercises without any care or thought behind them, which order they should be, what exercises hits what body part in what way. And not having a proper program means that you can't track your progress, that you can progressively overload your exercises and your training in general. You cannot progress which you don't track, and progressive overload, even if it sounds basic and almost everyone knows this, I hope so.
I hope so.
Okay.
Is the single most important thing that you need to do, that you need to implement to grow in a steady manner without walking around like a headless chicken. You need to have a program. You need to stick to the exercises you chose and not program hop like I still do sometimes. You should stick to your exercises, stick to a specific program you wrote to yourself or you found on the internet from a good influencer. Stick to that program for 3 to 6 months till you are plateauing completely, till you don't make any progress from the program, and milk those exercises. It doesn't make any sense to switch your programs all the time, even if you're still making progress from that one single program that you have right now. A mistake or pattern I see a lot of people doing nowadays is program hopping, or not having a program in the first place, which is a huge mistake. Program hopping means that you're hopping from one program 1 week to the other the next week, and not having a program. I hope that you can think for yourself. Not having a program is not having a program, and not having a program or program hopping means that you cannot use progressive overload. Progressive overload in donkey brain terms is just progressively getting better at lifting, which means adding a rep, adding a set, adding a little bit of weight every single time, progressively getting better at doing the exercises that you have in your program. It does not mean that you can progressively overload forever. You need to rotate exercises if you plateau completely. If you have already used those options of adding a set, adding reps, or adding weight, you cannot do that infinitely. Otherwise, we would all be strong as Ronnie Coleman or whoever. What I'm trying to get across here is that you cannot progress in something that you don't track, and tracking your workouts is so important. It made a huge difference in my workouts and in my physique, and my strength. And if you're program hopping or doing a different workout every single time you step into the gym, you don't even know what the fuck you're doing, how the fuck you should progress on, where your plateaus or where your weaknesses are, which you couldn't have even noticed if you didn't have a program in the first place, or you're program hopping all the time. And not just program hopping is a big problem, but rotating exercises too often. That means if you have a program, you cannot do that program infinitely. You need to rotate exercises that stagnate. Let's say your whole program is muy bien, perfect, and you're progressing and getting stronger everywhere, but that one lift, let's say bench press, is stalling slowly or completely plateauing for a few weeks. If plateau for 1 or 2 weeks, it's not a bummer, and you should always analyze and reflect if your sleep is going well, if you're eating enough, and if your stress levels are low. If your lifestyle in general is whack as fuck, don't expect to progress perfectly, because all those factors are greatly affecting your training. Even if you don't notice and you think you're some alpha male who can just yank around some weights and progress infinitely, you're not that guy, bro. You're not that guy. If your normal grip bench press is completely plateauing, even after having perfect sleep, having perfect nutrition, being in a calorie surplus, to gain strength and muscle, if your stress levels are low and let's say your motivation for the day was there, but you just couldn't move the weight up or even decrease in strength, that means that it is time for that exercise to go and for a new exercise to find its place, its host. Let's say you had normal bench press, and you can just switch that normal bench press for a closed grip bench press or a feet up bench press, which is a small rotation, is a small change in the exercise, but makes a huge difference in the long term. After you've changed that plateauing exercise, you can now milk the new exercise for a few months, and after that exercise plateaus, you can then change back to the exercise that plateaued in the first place, which is the normal bench press. If you're a beginner or intermediate, you don't have to have 1,000 exercises for that specific spot in your program. 2 or 3 are enough. If you're advanced, you need to have more exercises, more rotation, but if you're watching this video, you are likely not advanced. I hope so. If you are, great to have you here. Just make sure that you don't get too addicted to rotating exercises. When rotating exercises, let's say, again, a normal bench press for a closed grip bench press, you will be weaker in a closed grip bench press, because generally people are weaker in a closed grip bench press because the range of motion is bigger and it is more focused on the triceps, which is a weaker muscle than the chest. If you rotate that exercise, you will have newbie gains in that specific exercise, which is the cause of neurological adaptation, which occurs when you learn a new movement pattern and become proficient in that movement pattern. That means that you will maybe add 2 reps or weight quickly whenever you rotate a new exercise, and you need to be careful with that, because that progress will stall and you will then again make a lot slower progress in the long term. But that is a good thing. If you make slow progress but steady progress consistently, that means that you're growing muscle. If you're doing big weight jumps and adding 5 reps on your new specific exercise, that means that you're just getting newbie gains in doing that exercise and in getting proficient in that specific exercise. And you need to be careful to not get addicted to that progress or process, and that you don't rotate exercises all the time, which will cause you to make no gains because you're just learning those new exercises and can't really produce new muscle growth by grinding those +1 reps every single week and forcing your muscle to grow. not focusing on recovery and doing too much of everything. Recovery is the most important thing besides training, and for a good recovery, you need good sleep, enough sleep. That means 7 to 9 hours optimally. If you can only sleep 6 hours, you will not lose all your gains, but it won't be as good as sleeping 7+ hours. As I said, keeping your stress levels low. You can do this with meditation and just being mindful in general, not letting the outside world fuck with you all the time and being a calm individual. This is just a thesis, but I believe that being a calm human being in general and meditating a lot, being mindful, being present would boost your training progress a lot. I mean a lot. And that is due to the trash bin analogy. I don't know from who it is, but it's a good analogy. The point of this analogy is that all the stresses of life get thrown into the same trash bin. That means training stress, mental stress, stress you get from lack of sleep, and so on. They all get thrown into the same trash bin, and by you not sleeping well, by you training too much, by you being not calm at all, not being present, not being mindful and meditating and just taking care of your mental health and your spiritual health, means that your training progress won't be as fast as it could be, because training stress gets thrown into the same trash bin. Plus, this is also stress factors, but more so bad habits. Trying to quit, preferably trying to quit smoking and quitting drinking will greatly benefit not only your physical health and your progress in the gym, but your overall mental health and fucking saving your kidneys from kidney failure from drinking too much. I wasn't a big drinker. I drank occasionally, but I smoke hookah every single fucking day for hours with my friends, and I believe that that was also a big factor why I wasn't making any progress. First of all, it was a distraction, and second of all, smoking in general desensitizes your muscle and your body for protein synthesis. That means that smoking and training at the same time is just a waste of money, because you're eating and training for nothing. Drinking lots and lots of times throughout the week or month is also so counterproductive when it comes to training quality. After you had a night out drinking and completely blasting yourself with your friends, your body dehydrates so much and you're mentally just not there. Your hangover or whatever, that doesn't just last for one day. Mostly it lasts for 2 or 3 days, which is almost a complete week or half a week. And by doing that every single week because you want to have one night out, you're having just 3 days a week where you can train productive if you even have training days on those 3 days. Let's say you're drinking out on a Sunday or Saturday, and most of your training is in the first half of the week because you're doing a modified push-pull leg split, for example. Your first training days are whack, then you have a rest day and have 2 productive days, and then you're drinking again, which doesn't make any fucking sense. Stop drinking and smoking, if possible. If not, find a doctor. Point 3, not taking nutrition seriously. A lot of overweight people have the problem of course, not having the privilege of eating too much or eating a calorie surplus. If you're extremely overweight, you need to cut down the calories and be in a calorie deficit, which means you cannot build a lot of muscle. Of course, if you're just starting out, you get those newbie gains and you can even build muscle while cutting, but that newbie gain phase doesn't last long. 6 months to 1 year is the time frame those newbie gains stop working. But if you're not overweight, almost 99% of the time, even if you're skinny fat, you need to fucking bulk. I know when you're skinny fat, it looks ugly. You're skinny, your arms are noodles, but your stomach has a lot of fat in it or on it. And that makes you think, bro, I need to cut. I need to see my six-pack before I can bulk, which is complete nonsense. You need to bulk. You need to eat a lot and eat like a fucking madman. You need to calculate your maintenance calories. If you have a maintenance calorie intake of, let's say, 2000 calories, which is very low, but it's easier for me to calculate it for you now. Add 200 to 500 calories onto that to bulk. If you want to slow bulk, add 200. If you want to giga bulk and put on a lot of weight, despite of it being a lot of fat, add 500 calories or anything in between. If you want to cut weight, if you're in the position to cut weight, don't fucking cut weight. If you're skinny fat, you need to bulk, man. But if you want to cut weight because you're overweight, subtract 200 to 500 calories from your maintenance calories and stick to that calorie intake till it stalls, which brings me to another point. You need to track yourself every week, at least once, to know on which trend you're trending, on which trend you're going. If you see yourself staying at the same weight every single week, even if it's a surplus, if you see yourself not gaining any weight or losing weight on a weekly basis, that means that you need to up or go lower with the calories, whatever your goal is. You also need to introduce the concept of progressive overload for your calories. Let's say you want to bulk and the calorie surplus of just adding 200 calories isn't working anymore. You've gained the weight that you could have gained with that calorie surplus. You now need to up the surplus again and progressively overload your surplus. I will link an app for tracking calories and meals and a website or app for calculating your daily calorie intake down in the description below. I'm doing it separately because most apps for tracking your food have a shitty calculator, and I don't want you to use a shitty calculator. And preferably you would track your food and your meals in the first few months of your training journey, so you can grasp the idea of how much calories your normal meals have. For example, myself, I almost eat the same things every single day, besides the meal my mom cooks for me in the evening, but I cannot fucking track my mom's food. It's impossible. Tracking your food for a few months or weeks, occasionally or forever, if you want to, if it's fun for you, will let you know how much calories you're taking in, if you're even in the right zone for calories and proteins and etc. By tracking your food for a period of time, you will grasp the idea of what a plate of 200 grams of rice looks like, of 200 grams of chicken or whatever. Not every meal should be rice and chicken, but just an example of how those plates, how that volume of food even looks like, and how much calories that volume has. And after you've gathered your main meals, and if you're eating the same thing every single day, perfect. You don't have to track that every single time. But after you've grasped the idea of how much of this food, how much calories it is, and how that volume even looks like on the plate, you can somewhat count the calories in your head if you have built a habit of it and you have a good eye for it. You can do that without even counting calories every single day. Of course, it's not perfect and it won't be perfect. That's the point of it. For example, myself, I'm fucking obsessed with training, and I watch too much YouTube videos, and my head thinks too much about training, which is not a bad thing in general, but I don't want to obsess over it too much. And by counting calories every single day, I think I will burn myself out. I still track the weight of my food on a weight scale. It's just a habit I've built. I do it unconsciously and I don't mind, but I don't put it into my calorie calculator. I just like seeing how much of what food I'm eating, and I can somewhat calculate in my head, as I said. And you can learn that too. Two options. You do that, track it by eye, or count it in the app. Whatever you do, it's up to you. Whatever feels best for you. Being too strict with your form and not training hard enough is a huge mistake. A lot of people are ego lifting and training too hard or with a too wacky form, which I hope you're not doing. But you can also be on the other side of the spectrum like me. I was too fucking strict with my form, and I was too scared to progress in weight because that meant that my form wouldn't be picture perfect like it was before, which is a good thing. But after you've built your base, after you've gotten stronger and pushed your limits with training to failure and pushing up the intensity. If you can keep a good form in those circumstances with training to failure and going up in weight and getting stronger over time, perfect form is the best option, and you should strive to have a perfect form. But being too slow while performing exercises, like going down on the bench press for 5 seconds and pausing for 10 seconds, is too much of time on attention, which isn't even a metric for building muscle, which I thought it was because of ACTIONABLE. Keep strict form, but don't keep it too strict. Keep your eccentric for 2 to 3 seconds, not minutes. Feel your muscles stretching and pause at the bottom for bench press or whatever exercise. If possible, you will get much more growth for less weight, which is a good thing. Not if you're completely weak, but inducing good habits while performing exercises and performing a technique is a good thing. But as I said, don't keep it too strict. Don't be scared of moving up a weight if that means that the last 2 reps of your 10 rep set look a little bit sloppy or whatever. You can improve your form in the next week or in the next session and make those last 2 reps look perfect. It is completely fine. You won't lose any gains. You're not an eager lifter because the last 2 reps were a little bit shitty. It is okay, bro. It is okay. You need to train, or at least learn to train to failure. Only the last 5 reps. This is not some giga brain or alpha male Joko Willing, Arnold Schwarzenegger shit. But only the last 5 reps, literally only the last 5 reps of a set are even counting as a factor for muscle growth. Let's say you have a set of 30 reps. The first 25 reps were for nothing, theoretically, and only the last 5 reps are counting. On the other hand, if you're only doing 5 reps of an exercise, every single fucking rep of that set counts, and of course you need to hit those 5 reps. If you go below 5 reps, that doesn't mean that you're not building any muscle, but the perfect rep range for building muscle is 5 to 30 reps. I change my rep range depending on the exercise and what I feel is best, but that's not the point now. Only the last 5 reps are counting, and you need to learn to push yourself to hit those 5 reps. You don't need to train to failure all the time. If you're training to failure, I would suggest you to have a low volume approach, just doing 2 sets per exercise, maximally 3 for exercises like side delts or calves or whatever, because you can spam those exercises or muscle groups a lot more. But you don't have to train to failure all the time, but it would be good to push it on some exercises like bicep curls or little isolation exercises, so you can know what failure feels like on a muscle burning perspective and how much strain you're putting, how much effort you have to put in to hit that last rep, grinding your shit out. And if you feel like that training style suits you good for your character, you can put training to failure on every single exercise. But if you're scared of doing that on squats, deadlifts, and bench press, for example, those big combat movements where you can fuck yourself up if you don't have a spotter, you don't have to train to failure, but try to be in the 1 to 2 reps in reserve range, preferably, because you still have 3 to 4 effective reps, even if you're not training to failure in that specific set. If you're a beginner, you don't know what is good advice or what is bad advice. That's why I will list some good influences now you can learn from. Following good advice is so fucking crucial. I followed ACTIONABLE and those goofy influences at the start of my journey, which meant that I was doing goofy exercises. I was not focusing on the big combat movements, but I was doing some weird ass exercises. But following good advice and knowing what advice is good is so fucking crucial and will help you in the long term. I will list some channels in the description down below which you can follow. Those are Alex Leonidas, Bald Omni-Man, Natural Hypertrophy, GVS, Eugene Theo, and Mountain Dog, John Meadows. Those are excellent sources for you to follow and to study. You will thank me so much in the future, or you won't thank me because you don't know what stupid shit I learned in my past, and I'm saving you from that. If you haven't made the same mistake already, another channel I would suggest you to follow is, because I will give you good advice in the future after I've learned to communicate better and be more precise with my speaking. Learn to be patient. Bodybuilding, strength training, or just fitness in general is a long-term process. And it's not a sprint. It is a marathon. Bro, it is not a sprint. It is a marathon. My fucking throat is dry as fuck. I've been recording for an hour now and I haven't drank at all, but I'm getting to the point now. Learn to be patient. Learn to be grateful for yourself, for putting in the work to better yourself, to look more jacked, to feel strong and to be more confident. Be proud of yourself for even taking the first step, even if you're skinny fat or overweight. It doesn't matter, because down the line, you won't be absolutely jacked in 1 year, but after 1 year you will see so much progress and you will look like a completely different person. And of course, this will now scare you off a little bit, but let's say you've been training for 10 years, you will look like a fucking mountain. You will look like a fucking jacked cow or fucking Broly from Dragon Ball Z. Stick with the process, be patient, and learn to love yourself right now and be content with where you are, but still trying to improve yourself and get bigger, get stronger, educating yourself while being content and happy with yourself. Because body dysmorphia is a bitch, and I don't want you to be unhappy with yourself just because you don't look a certain way, which is absurd but understandable. We are human creatures and we like perfection, we like progressing. And if you're watching this video, if you have watched this video to the end, I believe that you have a great future behind you in a physical sense. Of course, you won't be a millionaire because you've just watched this video, but yeah. I've listed all the mistakes and failures I had in the past, and if you're interested to know why failure and making mistakes is a huge benefit and a huge opportunity for growth, make sure to watch this video right here and stay blessed. God loves you.